Sister Simone Campbell is the executive director of Network, a national Catholic social justice lobby. An effective leader for decades, Simone has, I guess you'd say, broken through to a new level of prominence in her activism with the widely recognized Nuns on the Bus tours for health care, for economic justice, for immigration reform. And as if that weren't enough, the attention that Pope Francis's words on economic inequality have been receiving from progressives in the halls of Congress lately suggests that the network lobby agenda is poised for even greater advances in this new year. That is why it was imperative to include Sister Simone in our series, A Prophetic Vision for a New Year, where we're going, how we'll get there. And I am so very pleased, as always, to welcome Simone Campbell back to State of Belief Radio.
Oh, it's an honor to be with you, Weldon. Glad to be here.
Always glad. The network lobby has been active since 1971. I know that Catholic women religious have had significant distractions coming out of Rome in recent years. Simone, how big a deal is it to have Pope Francis focus on a social justice agenda for the Church?
Well, quite frankly, for me, it is nourishment for the roots of my being, because Jesus in the Gospel has always been about being with those at the margins of society and being much less worried about rarefied rules and regulations. So to have Pope Francis, by his being, embrace people who are at the margins is such an affirmation of everything that my life's been committed to that my heart rejoices. But I also have to confess there's a little bit of me that gets nervous. Is it for real? And everything that my prayer leads me to is to the affirmation that, yes, it is. This is about his spiritual life. It's amazing.
I really feel better that you have that little bitty question, because I have it also, and I guess history has taught us to be cautious. But I tell you what, I mean, I call him my brother, and am thrilled as you are with what he's doing. I see the Pope's message resonating among some of our lawmakers in a way that I don't think I expected. Are you observing that?
Well, I am to some extent, but one of the things that I notice is that some lawmakers will take the part that they agree with and then kind of think it's the totality, and that actually has me a little concerned.
Right.
For instance, in his amazing exhortation last November, where he talked about economic realities and pointed out that it's income inequality that is undermining our society, our globe, and that needs to be addressed structurally. Well, he critiques a fixation on the safety net as much as he critiques this idea that trickle-down economics is going to work. Mm-hmm. And he's critical of both. And so some want to just focus on the trickle-down economics, and some want to focus on the critique of the safety net. But really what he's doing is calling us to a whole new level of activism mm-hmm. to change the structural way that resources are allocated in our society. It's a huge change, but people kind of go with the familiar sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll take his terminology and then put their politics with it.
Exactly. That's a good way to say it. Yes, their politics.
And, you know, I last week on this show, I mentioned this, and I did it with a lot of reservation, but I'm also afraid, knowing some of these folks on the Hill, that they will try to use him as a spokesperson for their agenda just by generalizing related to what he says, but then making specific what they want.
I think that's probably true. It's always a risk that, it's easy to take a quote and misuse it or use it for my own agenda. That's where I think we, the people, really have to stand up and hold our officials accountable. And it's the hard work of democracy that we need to stay informed, so we just don't take their sound bites as the given.
Yeah.
It is a challenge, but I also see a real hunger for an alternative way forward and coming together. I'm really struck that Bernie Sanders, I mean, he's Jewish. He is just totally enamored of what the Pope is saying, and he is using the fullness of the message as a challenge. He finds himself challenged by the Pope. And that, to me, is probably the sign of the fullness of the message. If it's challenging, then I, too, need to grow. It's not about, let me tell you how you need to change. No, it's about all of us working together.
Simone, are there ways that the Pope's message will make your work easier?
Let us pray to the Lord. Yes, I imagine that there are, in that it is more heard and that there are more opportunities to move beyond a very limited frame. I mean, we can talk in the global scale about this whole economic transformation that he's calling for. So that lifts our message up. But one of the ironies is to get, unlike your program, to get some media coverage is you need conflict. So I hope that the media doesn't get bored with the Vatican agreeing with Nuns on the Bus and the work that we've done, because I think what's essentially needed in our society is the hunger for hope that we together can make a change. And that's the part that media has got to understand. It's not just about the fight and what's impossible. It's also about the way forward. And that's where we need to come together.
Wonderful point. Has there been any indication that the current Pope intends to ease some of the oversight imposed on American Catholic women religious by his predecessor?
No, actually, no. What I say is we're a very small soccer ball in a very big game that he's playing. When he was first became Pope, he told all the various offices to keep doing what they're doing, and he'd gradually make change. He's making change at the center of the administration of the Vatican, and if he can make those changes, we'll be okay. But we're only one small country in a global church, and so it's natural that while these issues feel the biggest to us, they're not the biggest in the global church. But if he can successfully make the changes that he started, then I think we'll be okay. And besides, look what the Holy Spirit has done with the censure. I mean, the whole reason that we've been able to do Nuns on the Bus is because of the censure. So I just say the Holy Spirit's alive and well and making mischief, so it's fine.
Do you have any sense of how it's going within the Vatican in relation to him?
It appears that there are many of the more moderate members of the Vatican leadership are quite pleased, but it does appear that it is a power shift, and that those who have been in power of a more conserving nature, more focused on the past, are there is a fair amount of being disgruntled, I understand. But the reporting on it is pretty anecdotal, so it's hard to tell in the general politics. And I have enough trouble on Capitol Hill, so Palatine Hill would be a bit too much for me.
Yes. Simone, what areas do you expect to be concentrating on in the year ahead in your work?
Well, there are several issues as an extension of this restructuring of our economy. Key issues include minimum wage and wage fairness. People who work hard in our country should be able to support their families on their wages. That is a key way forward. Second is immigration reform. We continue to work valiantly for that on that issue, creating momentum. There's a small window of opportunity. We think it's possible in 2014, but if not, we have to really have momentum for 2015. And then additionally, we're extremely concerned about tax policy and tax reform. We have a new program called We the Taxpayer, which is for folks in faith communities to have dialogues about what's the meaning of taxation, why it's faithful to pay taxes, and how can we the people make a difference in our tax policy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working really hard to mind the gap, which is the income and wealth gap in our nation, and to make a difference. We're looking at the elections in 2014 in the fall. September, October, we're going to have an election strategy, which is going to be all about we the people demanding that we're better than this, that we the people need to come together and solve our problems and hold our elected officials accountable. So we're just shaping that one up, but it sounds like a lot of fun to me.
It sure does.
Yeah.
That'll
be good.
Is there another Nuns on the Bus tour scheduled?
Probably not, because we can't do it every year. It's costly, exhausting, and it was a surprise the first time. So, but what is happening is that I've written a book, and so I have a book coming out.
Oh, great!
And it's called A Nun on the Bus. And so, what we're going to try to do is to use the memoir as a way of helping people write their own story of how they came to faith and justice, their awareness of faith and justice going forward. And so they can read the book and not do anything more than that, or they can journey with us. We're going to have a study guide and those kinds of things to enhance it. So it should be good.
Terrific.
Yeah.
When is it out?
April 15th.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. I'm in the last throes of editing. So
I'm surprised that you're talking to me. Well, I know when you mentioned those issues that everything you mentioned is urgent.
Yeah.
Two questions. One, you talk about immigration, small window for some success in 2014, but have to be ready for 2015. How do you do that? I mean, how do you be that patient? This is an urgent issue, and you understand that we may have to wait a year.
Right. And I think it's not that I like waiting a year, that my heart's been broken by this wait because of all the people that we've met, people who are suffering, struggling,
right,
and will continue to suffer and struggle because of the broken system. But it's also reality. And if we don't stay engaged, it'll never happen.
Yeah.
So part of it is prayer. Part of it is knowing that if it was easy, it would have been done. So we, the people, can make it happen, and it's up to us in democracy to do the hard work. And I'm always up for hard work.
Yeah, I know you are. It's because of your heart. What do you say to people who say to us, why are you all worrying about minimum wage when there are so many other important issues that we ought to be looking at?
Well, I say Pope Francis says that it is low wages and this income inequality that's eroding our society and is the root of violence and is the root of prejudice, is the root of fear, and that the way forward is to address this structurally. One of the ways is to make sure that hardworking people can raise their family in dignity. Mm-hmm. And what that means is dignity requires food, shelter, clothing, education, health care. And currently, folks who work for current minimum wage do not make enough to get their families out of poverty. Mm-hmm. That is wrong, especially in the richest nation on earth. Yeah. We are better than this. And the entire benefit in our growing economy has been shifted to the CEOs, to the top. That's outrageous that those who produce the wealth don't get to participate in it. Mm-hmm. Pope Francis is really clear. He says, yes, private ownership is appropriate, but private ownership is only to be used for the benefit of the common good, so that the captains of industry need to share the wealth with those who make it. That's why minimum wage is important.
It seems to me it's important, too, for some of the people who listen to the Pope say that or listen to Simone Campbell say that and say, that sounds Marxist to me, ought to remember that it sounds like the gospel to others.
Absolutely, and people probably haven't even read Marx. I mean, Marx is all about communal ownership, shared ownership, and there shouldn't be private ownership. The fact is, the Pope says the role of private ownership, yes, it's to guard and protect property, but it's also to share it and to manage the sharing of it. Greed is corrupting our society, and we've got to step away from it. So I say periodically, you know how the cop shows, they say step away from the car? I say step away from your fear. We're in this together, and then we'll be a better people.
I like yours better. Now, the bus tours, you're doing the book. In your strategy at Network, what other kinds of outreach are you engaged in?
Oh, we have e-advocacy. We have 18,000 advocates across the country, so folks can always sign up to be an e-advocate. You can do that for free. We have folks who are engaging, who want to be more involved, who we have leadership teams in several states that got started as Medicaid expansion teams in states where they were not expanding Medicaid to cover low-income folks. And those teams are getting more active on some additional issues. And we also have a system of having congressional contact people in each of the congressional districts. So we don't have that fully staffed, so there's plenty of opportunities for folks to get involved.
Is this a hopeful time for Network and for the church?
Oh, absolutely. It's a time of joy and hope. I mean, how could it not be? The very fact of that the bus trip happened for me was an explosion of joy. And that is all because we touched reality. If you touch the pain of the world as real, not that you have to fix it, but just touch it as real. Let your heart be broken. It releases hope into the darkness. And that's what the bus was. That's what this time is. It's a dark time. But yet, on the other hand, we can be light in this darkness for each other. So it's a great opportunity.
You know what? I need to talk with you every morning.
And I probably need to talk to you on half of them to get nourished. So,
Simone, we've got listeners that not only want to be informed about your work, but they may want to be involved in it. How can they get information and pitch in if that's their desire?
Sure. We're on the web at networklobby, all one word, .org. You can find us there. We have both a C4, which is our advocacy arm, and Network Education, which is our education C3 arm. We're on Facebook. Our Facebook page is really active, really exciting if you want to keep up and just kind of read what we're up to every day. Follow me on Twitter, if you'll believe that or not. On Twitter, I'm at SR_Simone, SIMONE. And there I mostly share policy issues, where we're going, what we're doing, ways of connecting.
You know what? You are you may not like this term, but you are a rock star among people that I never thought would have a nun as their rock star. How do you feel about that?
Oh, it's humbling. I mean, quite frankly, it's really humbling because, Lord knows I never set out to be this, but it's all a gift of the Spirit. I have this poem that starts off that says, "Let gratitude be the beat of our heart." I mean, that's really what it is. I am so grateful. I'm so humbled by this opportunity to be where the Spirit has led us. It is a great gift.
One other question, Simone. If you, and I won't tell anybody what your answer is. But if you had a private audience with the Pope, what would you say to him?
Thank you, and how can I help nourish your heart? How can I be of support to you? Come on the bus with us if it helps. We'd love to have you. Well,
that's the essence of Simone Campbell. Sister Simone Campbell is Executive Director of Network, a national Catholic social justice lobby. As successful as she's been in raising awareness of justice issues in moral and religious terms, the year ahead promises to be full of new opportunities for people of faith to raise their voices in support of the most needy among us and to impact some of the priorities that our government chooses. Simone, I really am grateful for you doing the interview. It's always good to have you on the show. I know of nobody that really lifts my spirits and embodies hope like you do. And I wish you every success in the essential work that you're doing this year.
Oh, you're too kind. Thank you so much, Weldon. Appreciate it.